your guy, your best buddy, John McCain, last weekend, faced with a what is it? What is it? Was it Hobson's choice? Or no, I don't know if it was.
Hobson's choice.
I don't know if it was whether or not to go on the Sunday talk shows or to sneak into Syria, which was the best way for him to promote another war.
As long as he didn't have to spend time with his family, it was really win-win.
And so he snuck into Syria, and he's trying to make the case that we can arm the Syrian rebels and know exactly who we're arming, which has two problems. One is guns seem to travel between parties. You can't always be convinced that you're giving somebody an anti-aircraft missile fired whatever it is rocket, and it's going to stay with them forever, because sometimes they leave it at the cafe by mistake, or they get hit by a bus. And then the other problem
you never know.
The other problem,
like with some of these guards who are carrying guns in our schools, you just leave it in the bathroom loaded by mistake.
Indeed. And then the other problem he has, of course, in terms of arguing that it's very easy to vet who you're going to give these weapons to, is that it turns out he took a photo in one of his photo ops with a guy who turns out to be implicated in the kidnapping of 11 Lebanese Shiite religious pilgrims, 9 of whom are still being held.
Right, which is shocking, because I could never – it's like, again, sometimes we feel like it kills satire, and I don't even know where to go with this stuff. These are the guys that literally, if we start in the late 70s, armed bin Laden and friends in Afghanistan, spent the 80s arming Iraq against Iran, right? Then turned against Iraq and decided to go to war with them, helping Iran in the process. I mean, and then more recently in Libya, we don't know. I mean, some of these guys may have killed he's all worked up about Benghazi. Some of these guys may have killed our ambassador with our own weaponry. Because, frankly, in Libya, we didn't know the hell we were helping. Some of them were pushing for democracy, and some of them were not. Were jihadists, I mean, the issue, which is the same issue every time we get involved in one of these places, the blowback that comes from it, the fact that we don't, I'm a humanitarian, and in clear-cut cases where we can stop a genocide and be part of a multinational force, I believe in it. It's like the kind of thing we haven't really done in Darfur, and we didn't do in Rwanda. All right, but when it comes to getting involved in these civil wars and arming one side and whatever, it's inevitable that the side we're arming ends up being as bad as the people they're fighting against. At least some of them do. It just is inevitable. And it's like, how many times do you need to learn this damn lesson? I mean, obviously he doesn't care and won't listen. But, I mean, the whole thing was a joke that he would go in there and do that to begin with, and then just the added sort of cherry on the sundae is that he's a dumbass enough to take a picture with this guy.
The interesting thing is, this is going to really, this is going to hurt his agenda to get back into this war. I mean, I saw Jonathan Chait had a great piece on McCain this week, and it talked about the fight that he's having with guys like Ted Cruz and the more hardliners in the Senate. We haven't talked about this that much on the show, but the Senate has passed their first budget in several years. The Republicans are refusing to allow it to go to conference, both in the House and the Senate. They're requiring certain things that make it impossible to reconcile it, so there's not going to be a budget. Right. McCain is pissed about this and other things, and part of it, Chait says, is that you've got, Rand Paul and Ted Cruz posturing as these Tea Party guys, and they must hold this sort of non-interventionist line to appeal to sort of parts of the libertarian Republican base now. And it is, it's killing McCain's buzz. It's stifling his buzz.
The problem now is you can't win with these guys. Because McCain is, a voice of sanity on supporting, background checks on immigration reform to a certain degree and some other stuff, but he's literally an insane person on anything international. But on the other side, when people are standing up for Rand Paul and all the rest of it, he may be a guy that doesn't want to go into Iraq, but he's then sending out secret letters to his followers about Agenda 21 and Homeland Security stocking up on weaponry to kill our own citizens. I mean, and that's what you got with the Ted Cruz Rand Paul wing. Like, they're all insane people. And even the people you can even find to be good on some issues. Peter King has been great on some of the gun issues and getting relief for Hurricane Sandy, and then he thinks every other Muslim's a terrorist.
All right.
It's like it's amazing finding one sort of wholly sane person in the Republican Party.
Well, the interesting thing though is the way that this is going to play out, because McCain. There is some talk. This week President Obama appointed or nominated 3 judges for the circuit court in Washington. There's at least some sense that he is attempting to basically call the Republicans' bluff on the filibuster. Harry Reid has been talking supposedly again. You and I
but
both
believe it when we see it with Harry Reid is the one thing I'll say.
But Merkley thinks there's a chance here for some filibuster reform if McCain and I think Hayes last week also suggested that he thought this fight between McCain and the isolationists could also end up leading to filibuster reform in some way, because he wants to sort of thwart what they're doing just because he's a very spiteful guy, and
he could probably bring Lindsey Graham along with him on the times when Lindsey hasn't snuck into Iraq to go back to the Shoreham market and shop for good rugs.
Indeed.